Hello, Meoni here, and welcome back to another video for Final Fantasy XIV. It should come as no surprise by now if you've kept up to date with the 14 news that in the past few weeks leading back to the announcement at the Las Vegas Fan Festival that the servers as we know them currently for the game are about to be reorganized. I was asked to share my thoughts on this topic and the facts as we know them, so here we are. In patch 4.5, releasing part 1 in early January, it was confirmed at the Las Vegas Fan Festival that they are implementing both a world visit system, which allows you to play on other servers on your data center with limitations temporarily, but also that because they want to primarily avoid the events that transpired with the release of Stormblood, i.e. Raban Extreme amongst the other 90,002 errors and the like, and to remove strain on said server structure, they decided to add a new data center to both North America and Europe, which sounds immediately quite a reasonable decision. Well, the current servers are obviously being split apart to limit the strain on any one data center, or at least I guess that's the goal. The controversy then comes from what servers are going where, and whilst I'm a fair believer that no matter where the servers were distributed, that you are bound to irritate a section of your player base regardless, and whilst they're offering reimbursement to the value of property and lost furniture and the like, as well as free transfers for everyone affected, which at this point is everyone, there are a few general short-term issues with the layout in 4.5. So here's the list of American data centers first. EU is a whole other can of worms to look at in just a second. So as you can see from this chart from FanFest that ATA, or Acta, which they can't spell either, nice. You have Adamantois, Cactuar, Fairy, Gilgamesh, Genova, Midgard Summer, Sargatanus, and Siren together, with the primal data center having Behemoth, Excalibur, Exodus, Famfrit, Hyperion, Lamia, Leviathan, and Ultros together, and the new data center, Crystal, has Balmung, Brunhilde, Coel, Diabolos, Goblin, Marlborough, Mateus, and Zalera together. On Reddit, a few graphs were posted to make this even easier to visualize. I'll link all of the Lucky Bancho lodestone data in the description and the various Reddit threads I used. You'll see on the current distribution that Aether is reaching 126,222 active players, whilst the closest rival is Primal with 94,452. So this is what the new distribution looks like, with the same realms, with the same data, reorganized. Crystal would have the highest amount of active players at 78,396 active, with Aether and Primal at a much more realistic split. So then immediately it's looking like Aether would have the better raiding scene, with Crystal certainly going to be more heavy on the RP community, or at least that's the label it will probably inherit temporarily. Based on another Lucky Bancho sheet, you can see that we have Gilgamesh on Aether as the highest clear rate of Omega Savage content, then Leviathan on Primal, Sargatanus and Cactuar on Aether, Behemoth on Primal, and then Balmung on Aether, with a lot of the other servers much lower on the list, but are both on Primal or Crystal come 4.5. That's not to say there won't be a great raiding scene on Crystal, but in general, as it stands before the server transfers, if we had this here tomorrow, then the clear rates, if you look at the logs, would suggest that Crystal would have less than half the successful clears of current content than Aether's. We're talking Savage 08. And as much as I'm sure they think this would work, I don't know. It smells to me like the majority of players currently playing on a Crystal-related server would probably think about going to Aether for that reason alone, especially if it is a free transfer, which it is. Again, that's not to say it's impossible to make a raiding scene that's successful on Crystal, but players usually gravitate to one server or a set of servers that are already well established when it comes to raiding. When you look through the forums and Reddit, you'll see a lot of people talking about how they'll probably leave a Crystal-affected realm for this exact reason. So, will this actually fix anything? Won't the ability to just free transfer make Aether even more of a congested data center than it currently is? It seems to me that the idea that they want to limit the issues that plagued the game with this feature could have the adverse effect completely. I don't think this will correct much of the congestion and issues that plagued the game at all, and to be honest, this could have been a great opportunity to do what players have always asked for, an East and West split. West Coast and East Coast data center distribution would have probably made the whole thing much more varied and split in a more natural fashion, but apparently this is what you're getting instead. So now on to the EU split. This is a weird one. As you can see, Chaos Data Center will have Cerberus, Louisoix, Moogle, Omega and Ragnarok together, and the new data center named Light will have Lich, Odin, Phoenix, Shiva and Zodiac, as well as both of these data centers getting a new server in Shadowbringers. They decided to split Shiva and Moogle, which are the French and majoritively German-speaking realms respectively, and they said during the live letter at FanFest that they intended to split the servers based on the majorative language spoken as one of the reasons. This seems to be one of the main reasons then for the split, that and the attempt to reduce congestion further. A lot of people in the community of recent have been vocal about the prospect of, in their words, putting all the French people on Chaos and labelling it as such, a French data centre, when in reality it's obviously not quite as bad as that. However, it really is a strange thing to bring up as a reason by Square Enix, to be honest with you. Square Enix seems to believe that segregation is the best course of action when it comes to what language you speak, which in reality the split affects the raiding scene quite curiously. Servers like my own, Ragnarok, will be staying on the Chaos Data Center, with servers like Cerberus, yet Moogle and the relatively low clear rate servers Louisoix and Omega will be along with us. Meanwhile, Light has Odin, which has a huge clear rate of Ultimate, Phoenix, which is a respectable raiding server, Shiva, again a massive sized population filled with a pretty good clear rate of top tier PvE content, and only Zodiac and Lich to really lower the clear rates of that data center. It will also be supposedly more English speaking focused, if you want to believe that. Initially, when you look at the clear rates on this piece of data, you might be forgiven for thinking the split is actually pretty equal. There are big progression teams on Ragnarok, for example, but what this data doesn't account for is the amount of raiding that's done outside of set teams, which isn't all that much. As much as pugs exist and we have a decent clear rate on Rag, it's not as much as on a server like Odin, where the clear rate is pretty high, but they are seemingly less preformed progression teams. The community seems to be reacting on Reddit and the official forums primarily to the idea that Chaos will be flagged as the French data center, but past the obvious knee-jerk reaction negatively as you would expect, the raiding scene looks much more pointed towards Light. But then we can only really base this off the numbers we have now, which won't be at all relevant when the free transfers hit in January for 4.5's release, and even less relevant perhaps in Shadowbringers next summer, especially since we're getting new servers. As for what I'll do, I'm leaning towards Light, to be honest with you, but I'm quite well invested into Chaos and Ragnarok specifically, so it really comes down to which data center the majority of both my viewers and how enjoyable the pug scene will be on each, especially if there is indeed a further forced language barrier put on Chaos, which Square Enix have not really helped to alleviate. Either way, I'm interested to see what thoughts you have on this subject. Do you have a decision on which data center you're going to play on when 4.5 comes out? Do you have similar worries for EU? Let me know below, and I'll see you all next time.